Sunday Scriptures for Patriots. I'm your host, Sean Morgan. I'm here with Barry Durmaz, and we are going to be talking about overcoming America's enemies with Christian self-government. And we've gotten into a lot of different topics the last 6 episodes or so, where we talked about the family government and the husband's role and the wife's role and the child's role. And we've also talked about, of course, Christ's kingdom government, how that reflects in our family. And we've talked about America's uniqueness, how the providential history of America and the design of American government is a reflection of Christ's kingdom government. And today we're going to get into a really, really interesting topic to me, which is sovereignty and the legal aspect of things and how that works in our real life when we declare sovereignty. So all of that is going to be explained by Barry through his experimentation and his legal remedies in his life. And we're going to talk about all of that. But first, we're going to listen to a word from our sponsor. He's supporting our ministry, okay? And he's a man of God, has a degree in theology, Dr. Kirk Elliott, and he helps people with figuring out a financial plan that includes precious metals instead of this fallen beast financial system. So if you want to take back your financial sovereignty, take advantage of the link in the description below and check out this word from our sponsor.
Gold is near all-time highs. Has it reached its peak? Did you miss the boat? No, I don't think so. The exploding debt, change in the interest rate cycle, political and economic turmoil have caused the current move in gold, and those things are getting worse. In fact, Citibank projected gold to hit $3,000 an ounce over the next 12 to 18 months. I encourage you to protect and grow your investment portfolio with gold. I trust Dr. Kirk Elliott with Sovereign Advisors. With over 25 years of experience and 2 PhDs, Kirk Elliott is the best of the best in the industry. Call his office at 720-605-3900 and tell him Sean Morgan sent you, or just click on the link in the description to get that free consultation.
All right, Barry, let's talk about sovereignty and what you've experienced in your life, trying to figure out what that looks like in the legal realm.
In the legal realm, yes. That's a nice way to introduce it. Sean, I'm glad that we're together today to bring this forward, and I thank all the listeners who are with us today. And so to start introducing this subject, I know a lot of people like to use the word sovereignty, and that's a perfectly good word. And at the same time, you are good to acknowledge that Christ Jesus is the ultimate sovereign, right? And if we have any sovereignty, it's because it comes from him, right? And he creates individuals, and we exercise what he wants us to do, to be obedient to him. So I think
he's the King of Kings, literally.
Yes, he is. And okay, so I've been touching on in these since we've commenced this podcast that something happened to me 25 years ago, and that was that I was introduced to America's Christian history, heritage, and form of government. I was introduced to that. And after being in the church for so many years of meetings and Bible study, I'd never heard that. It never came across in the pulpit, quite frankly. And so I thank God for raising up ministries outside of the local church, itinerant ministers and teachers that, and so thank God for the different gifts. Okay, different gifts. And so what happened is learning history, I'm learning. You can't study history without getting into the government side of things, law and economics. Those three in particular, they're related, but they're separate subjects. But by studying history, law, you can't escape it. Law, right?
This is something in our public education, they don't really teach this stuff. But if you go to a private school, an elite school, they certainly focus on it a lot more than public.
They do, yes. And so, we live in a world where, we live in a universe that law is inescapable. Okay. Now, Sean, as we get into this, I think your background might be similar to mine as far as our Christian faith. A lot of the faith is hostile to just law in general. Okay, there's a view of the gospel. There's a view of Christ's good news that we're no longer under the law, but we're under grace. Now, the Bible says that. Paul says that. Okay, but when you take that isolated, if you take that just in an isolated context, the Bible starts contradicting itself, because there's many places where there's good things said about the law, and just when Paul said we're not under law, but we're under grace, there's not a contradiction there. Okay. We're not under the law as in external to our being, the temple of the Holy Spirit, but now under the new covenant, the law comes within. That's the grace where it comes in and governs you from within.
People tried to catch Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. They tried to trick him when they were challenging him all the time, right? These Pharisees, these hypocrites were trying to catch him and say, you do this on the Sabbath and this, and always trying to catch him, on breaking the law. And Jesus was very clear to me that he did not come to contradict the law. He came to fulfill the law. And so, whatever's in the Old Testament, it's all game. It's all still good. So
it is, yes, Sean.
Unless it's been addressed specifically, right? So the reason why I want to get at this is that we're liberated by grace from the curse of the law. It doesn't mean that we don't follow the law. It's not like we get a pass, like, I'm a Christian, I don't have to follow the 10 commandments because Jesus will bail me out. So that's not how it works. It's that we have to try to follow the law, but it's impossible for us to be perfect of our own accord. So of our own earthly human to kind of nature. So that's where, we're supposed to be obedient. I mean, we're supposed to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Yes. We're supposed to, follow all laws that are in accordance. Like if the authorities of the world and of our external governments here, if they're asking us to do something and it's not evil, like, we should do it. Right? I mean, like, we should be obedient to our external authorities if it's according to Christ's law. If it's not, look, Jesus sent all of his apostles out to preach the gospel, which was against the law at that time, and yet it was according to Christ's law. So we follow Christ's law above all else, and if it's in accordance with that, then we do it. If it's against that, then we don't do it. Right?
Yes, I think it's important when we use the word law. There's another word that begins with the letter L that people believe is contrary to law. And that word that needs to be acknowledged is love, Sean. So that's a big division in Christendom, is that you're either on the law side or the love side, and neither these two ideas should ever meet, And so, in the Old Testament, God is the God of brimstone and hell and all that nonsense, and he's the law, and then the God gave Moses the law. Moses is considered the lawgiver, and and so, and in the new covenant, he's a gentler God. He's, we see him in Jesus, and Jesus is just meek and mild, and there's truth to that, of course. All right, but now we have to understand that the older covenant is shadows and types and symbols pointing to. So the law of God, as you mentioned it, when Jesus came, he's a full expression of the law. Okay.
Yeah. And he's that perfect union of love and law together.
That's right. Yep.
And you know what? So is the family unit. The father represents the law, and the mother represents the love. And that's what God truly is, that perfect union of law and love at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they're not contradictory. And Sean, I have to admit, I've been tossed back and forth for years, because we got our teachers out there. There's educators. There are people in two. There's these two major camps, like the law side and then the love, and then there's probably a few others out there. Okay, there's a lot of diversity. But in my own journey, and again, going back to studying the founding history of this country, which is It's a Christian history. Okay. It's about what Christ did, the mighty works of God through the good news of Christ, and here's what it's important for our listeners to hear. The good news of Jesus is not about the afterlife in and of itself, heaven. Okay. But that's how I was raised, that, preoccupation with heaven, and then only a tangential or a nominal assent that Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Look, when is he going to start actually showing his power, this king? And so I started realizing that, most of the faith, at least in my world, I'm not talking about everybody, but I'm just saying, you have me here with us, to us here, Sean. My experience is that experience is important. Okay. It's not the standard, but we need to, as born again men, have that experience of God working in us. Okay. So, I wanted to see Jesus really in power, and he started moving on me as I was studying history, his story, what he's been doing in the earth, and his story that since the resurrection, it started in creation, but it's worked out through ultimately in him, that it's his law is to prevail in the earth, and his law is to be so liberated. There's another L word. Okay, we got law, mentioned love, and now we're mentioning liberty. Okay, liberation. And all of that is the character of Christ Jesus, so that what he's doing in the earth since the resurrection is that because he is the law. Sean, he rose from the dead. Man's law murdered him, but guess what? His law prevails, and his law is be liberated to overcome the attacks to your life.
It overcomes the world,
right?
Like
Yes.
they tried to kill him, but he resurrected. I want to go back real quick to that example of they tried to say, we see what you and your disciples are doing on the Sabbath day and everything, and they're trying to catch him in this legalism, and he said, you know what? Any one of you here, if one of your animals fell into a ditch on the Sabbath, you'd lift it out. So I'm here to tell you that it is good to do good on the Sabbath. It's lawful to do good on the Sabbath, right? So, love is the law. Liberty is the law.com
Yes.
is your website.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So this is really, these are the really deep principles. But so once you're done summing up the principles, let's get into the examples of how you've exercised this in your life.
Sure. So, okay. So you said sovereignty, but I know last week from the program, you want to talk about traveling, the right to travel. Is this right? Okay. You put a smile on your face there. So, okay. As we come into that, let me just, let me say a couple things that, I want our listeners to benefit from, Sean. And so, I want people to, I do want people to come and visit us at libertyisthelaw.us and join Household Embassy. And when you do that, which costs you nothing, I've got a report I'm going to give you, and I'm holding it up here. So if anyone, for those who are watching by video versus the audio, right, podcast, when you join Household Embassy, there's more tools available to you for exercising, promoting, and defending your right to govern yourself. Okay. And one of those tools, Sean, and this is going to be germane to what we're talking about today. And that is that I had help with a lawyer, Brent Allen Winters, great man who's mentoring me. Sean, what I have here is a contrast between two views of law, two views of life in America. All right. And this is the problem, is that we as Christians, we have not been taught, and because men in pulpits, they haven't learned. If you've gone to seminary and Bible college, you're really not learning true law. You're learning the Bible, you're learning church history, but then what Jesus is doing in every other part of the life of our lives, no, you have to figure it out on the world's terms. But it was learning America's Christian history, Sean. Now, America's history, okay, not church history. Of course, there is a church history in America, but I'm talking America. Okay, I'm talking, this is, where we live 24/7. So again, I just want to encourage people to, to join Household Embassy. There's this document you can have, and you can download it, and it's titled Two Views of Life in America, contrasting. It's America's foreign enemy contrasted with Americans. Okay. So here we're going to talk about law.
So many people have perceptions that are actually perceptions that are propaganda from the enemy.
Oh, Sean, come on. This is the veil that's come off of my eyes, the scales. Let's get really scaly. Is that, okay, let's approach it like this. Jesus in Luke chapter 11. Okay, so that's a key passage there. And he's going off with the Pharisees, the religious leaders of his day. And towards the end of that chapter, he pronounces woes, W-O-E-S, woes. That's another word for judgment. Okay. And on the lawyers, Sean, those who are professional accusers, and he pronounces judgment because they put burdens on people. Burdens. And here's the contrast, one of them, and that is the Christian life is burden lifting. Okay. And so we're to come out of the world of its burdens and come into the kingdom of God, the government of God, and live the carefree life. And so the problem behind what's going on in our country, one of the major ones is the lawyering behind everything. We are hamstring and strung and strangled at the neck, needing permission for everything.
Permissions. That's one of the indicators that something's been over lawyered is when you got to seek permission to do something that you should have just a right to do because you're sovereign. Another indicator would be complexity, right? When there's all these thousands of codes that you're supposed to be following, and a lot of paperwork, right? So when you have to go through, I remember when I bought my first house in America, there was a stack of paper. It was hundreds of papers. I had to sign hundreds. There's no way I could read all of them. It would take me weeks or months to read all the papers. So I just signing, have no idea what I'm signing. And it's just complexity. So let's get into what happened with you personally when you decided you weren't going to ask for permission to do something that you thought you should have a right to do. Okay. Traveling.
Okay. So I'm taking the word of the Lord to bear in my life, Sean, and I'm moved by such things as when Jesus said in Matthew 28, all authority, both in heaven and in the earth, have been given to me. Okay. He has all authority, and he says, go make disciples, make disciplined learners of me. The key word there is go. Okay. Now in another passage, it's in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10. He says, the Lord says through his servant, Paul, that if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. Okay. Now, Sean, I'm studying what's good about our country, our American Christian history, rooted in biblical principles. And so I'm applying it to my life. I'm not studying for study's sake. Okay. I can't just do the academics. No. And so I'm reading the scriptures here, and I know that Jesus is the King. He is the law. It's the law of Christ. It's the law of liberty and the law of love that we mentioned already. Okay. So, there's two big areas in my life that I've cut the strings off of because of the right idea of law. And that is, I've cut off the IRS for one, and I've cut off the Department of Motor Vehicles. Okay. So I think what we want to drill down on is the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? Just the right to travel. And, but it's good to continue to go back and forth, Sean, deal with the principle, and then where can I apply it? Deal with the principle. Where can I apply it? Think it back and forth, cause and effect.
Real quick. I want to mention this quote from the Bible here where, Jesus is talking to Pilate, and Pilate's saying, hey, I have the authority to either let you be free or to crucify you. Aren't you going to try to, talk to me here about this? I'm the one with the authority. And Jesus, you can almost hear the sarcasm dripping from Jesus when he says, the authority you have has been given unto you. Yeah. And I interpreted that as from God, like that authority that Pilate thought he personally had control over was authority that God gave to Pilate. So Jesus was just like, I know who's really in control here. It's not Pilate, and so I thought that was interesting that
yes, sir.
All authority, literally all authority is Christ, is God's. So, and then I just wanted to mention that I traveled to the U.S. recently, and I helped my father with his Department of Motor Vehicle fees, because in Pennsylvania, if you have a vehicle, and my dad has 4 vehicles, he has 2 trucks and 2 cars, then you have to pay an annual fee. Mm-hmm. Who knows what this fee is for? We don't know. What does it pay for? What's the value is added in our lives? It's just it's
administration. Quite frankly,
it's a scam to me. It's just a racket. So my dad's on a fixed income. He doesn't work anymore. He's retired, and he has some of his money has to go just to pay these government bureaucrats just for having vehicles. It doesn't matter, what the state of the vehicle is. It doesn't matter what his income level is.
Yes.
They just require it, and you better pay it. And if you don't, then the policemen, they come and they say, well, you broke the law, and we're going to fine you more. And it's just more money for the government. So it is this constant racket. So go ahead, Barry, tell us what's going on with the DMV.
So, Sean, I realized when I was in Japan that the next area, after I dealt, the government of Christ deals a death blow to the evils of socialism. Okay, thank God for Jim Rose, Catherine Dang, 2 of my teachers. And so that's what I've been meditating on, and I'm seeing it. To be a Christian is to be governed by Christ. Okay, so I just started taking this. It started affecting me where that's right. It's not going to be theory. It's not going to be a meeting on Sunday or Wednesday or whenever, a Bible study. No, I'm going to live this way. I'm seeing this is what's true and good about America. By the way, another excellent passage is Philippians 4, chapter 4, verse 8, that says, whatever things are true and lovely and virtuous and of a good report and praiseworthy, meditate on these things. I don't need to meditate. So here's to answer you, Sean. I don't need to meditate on this. I'm opening up for people who are seeing by video. What does that say?
Oregon Vehicle Code.
The Oregon Vehicle Code. So I was back in Oregon, lived there for 40 years, and look at how thick that is.
It's thicker than the Bible.
It is. Then your average. Oh, it's much thicker. And see, here's what I started seeing, Sean, is that wait a minute, I'm to know all this stuff, and I'm being asked by the state to meditate. Actually, not by the state. It is by the state, but the bureaucratic agency of the motor vehicles. Okay. And so what I'm applying Philippians 4:8, and what am I to meditate on? What am I to focus on? I don't need to focus on complying with man-made administrative law. And so then I got another volume here. Here's a volume. This is by Philip Hamburger, is Administrative Law Unlawful. And he's a lawyer. He's a professor teaching law at is it Cornell University? It's the University of, I can't remember right now. No, Columbia. The Columbia Law School. Okay, Philip Hamburger. He's got some videos on YouTube. You can watch him. So I started drilling down on how about the freedom to go, as Jesus said, and to work. If he said it, then I have the highest law that exists. Okay, so I've been studying these biblical principles, but here's the thing I realized, Sean, is that these principles govern God's people, but to the evil empire, they don't care a diddly about our good governing principles. Okay, so they govern us. We need to be governed by his principles. But what we need there then, as we go into the world to do good for the Lord and our families and others, is that we need strategy. Okay, strategy is what's needed, and I've had help with strategy. And so let me help. I want to help people see that the fraud of the motor vehicles division, since we're getting into some specifics. I lived in Florida for 4 years, and so here I'm holding up from their website the Florida driver's license and ID card. And notice, Sean, what does it say underneath that title?
Retail guide.
Huh? Retail guide. Well, look at that. This is Sean, what do you think of when you think of retail? And
Commercial.
yeah, business. Huh? Very interesting. And so what I wrote here in the margin is this is equity. This is commerce. Okay. And equity is a part of our law. Okay. We have criminal law and then we have equity, and equity tends to do with contracts. Okay. With private to private thing. Okay. But so there's the place for equity law. Okay. But here they're self-revealing that this is a retail guide. Really? Well, now I go into the first page and it's written by the executive director. So for anyone listening in Florida, who's been in Florida, Terry Rhodes, female, she's the executive director. I wrote here, and 2 years later, I've gotten no response. Okay. And we can talk about that. All right. But in here, Sean, it's her welcome letter. Welcome to to the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, and they strive to provide the best service. So I underline key phrases and words here. We've got best service as a retail organization that uses Florida credentials to verify your identity. Okay. So first, they're talking about
supposed to be serving you, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And they do it under force and threat of force. They're threatening you with their service. They're a retail organization here. She says individuals you encounter are representing themselves lawfully and legit. Well, they want to ensure that people who are representing themselves are doing it lawfully, legitimately. Sean, hang on. I'm going to pause here. I'm raising my hands up, and there's 10 fingers on these two hands. You know what's on these fingers?
Fingerprints?
Fingerprints. God issued 10 pieces of ID, Sean, right here. You've got them as well. Most people do. Some have a few fingers than others, fewer. But this is God issued ID, and the state, because they turn a stewardship role of, protecting making sure everything is orderly out there. They've turned a stewardship role into a proprietarial role. They've turned it into a business enterprise. And when you read their own literature, how about this? Our customers, she says here, we're providing our customers protections against fraud and identity theft. Our customers. Sean, I write about
it's
this.
Voluntary.
See, well, in the marketplace is voluntary, but see, they have the guise of presenting themselves as a government, but they're not. And this is a distinction I want to make too, Sean, is
actually they were pretty clear that they're doing business and that you are a voluntary customer.
I'm their customer.
Is that the way you interpreted it when you went into a court of law?
Yes. And now here's the thing about, since you bring it in the court, I have brought this stuff into court. I have represented myself 3 times as a pro se litigant defendant. And what I'm sharing with you, Sean, what I'm sharing with the audience, and there's content about this in my book, What is an American, that's coming out here. Okay. We're getting this published. I give my real world experience of overcoming the motor vehicle division and showing the fraud of their proprietarial role, that they're in business. They are saying they're in business, but they want us to believe that they're actually governing things and making it safer out there. And it's really a lie. And I have got a lot of evidence here.
Yeah, you had the evidence. And so you decided that you don't want to have to pay for a driver's license and get a driver's license to get permission, because you think that you should be able to just go to work and have the freedom to travel. So what did that look like whenever you made that stand?
It's incremental, Sean. You just don't, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people wake up one morning and just, throw caution to the wind. It wasn't that way for me. I don't think it's renewing your mind, and you start taking on more of the mind of Christ. And so I'm governing myself. So it started back in Oregon in 2005, where I didn't stop at a stop sign. And the reason I didn't stop at it is because it wasn't functioning as a stop sign. Okay. There was a 3-way intersection there. And, but one of the roads, there was a lane closure. There was actually a barricade by the county there. And so on this one particular day, I did not stop at a stop sign. I just went right through it. I went right through it, and I went on my merry way. And it's interesting how on that day, there was a deputy sheriff behind the barricade. Okay. And so, of course, I got pulled over. Okay. And I got cited for that and a few other things like disobeying a lawful order, because I got out of my vehicle to talk to him, engage him, and he didn't like that. He felt threatened. And I'm open arms. I'm like, come on, let's talk. But no, they want to posture you, get in your car, and they want to tower over you. And that's, part of the psychology there of posturing. And so I was arrested, friends.
This is ridiculous. Let me give my commentary real quick,
Yeah.
Barry. You were pulled over because you used your mind and you made it an adult decision about safety that anyone could understand, that there was no reason to have a stop sign there functioning as a stop sign because there was no danger of oncoming traffic because of the lane closure. And this guy, this person who claims that he's supposed to be helping our society, right? He actually decided to act as a scam artist because he's trying to get revenue, I guess. I mean, that's what I have to assume, is that he was more interested in money than in inflating his own ego and sense of authority than in actually having justice and safety for his community. And then, you being unarmed and having your arms open and stuff interpreted that as you are a danger to him. He's the one with a gun. Yeah. Right. So
they feel very threatened.
This is very sad. This is the fascist kind of country we live in, that you can't make adult decisions on your own. You can't talk to someone on your own terms. You have to always be obeying some guy with a gun under the threat of them killing you if you don't obey them.
Yes.
And it would be different if they had your best interest in mind, if they really wanted to keep you safe, if they really were interested in justice. I would be so happy that there are people with guns that were keeping order out there. But instead, it's apparently people like that guy. So what happened from there, Barry?
Sean, I was cited with two uniform traffic citations. And just as a side note, but it's very germane, when you see the word uniform out there on a citation, that is a red flag. That's socialism, right? Bold. That's what socialism looks like. It wants to create a uniformity of people and situations. And that is contrary to Jesus Christ, which is tremendous diversity. Okay. And so that if in my diversity, and last week we talked about individuality that's related to, diversity, how did God make me different from others? If I can't exercise my individuality in the Lord in everyday life, then I'm denying Christ. That's what I learned. And that's why I started throwing these things off, these yokes of anti-Christian bondage. But Sean, what happened is I went to court. My first time I went to court, and I prepared myself. I studied their code. I took their citations, looked up their numbers, and that's when I bought this Oregon Vehicle Code. I still got it. I love doing this because this is show and tell. Okay. To make the impact, like you saw how thick this thing is. And this is just one area of life. And that's, driving or traveling. We can talk about that. But I took their code, Sean, and I prepared a defense. And it's an 11-minute defense that I wrote out. So I didn't go in there, shooting from the hip. I studied their code, and one thing led to another in their code. Because you know how the code is, it's like a maze. They're all connected. And to get things defined, you got to go to this, and then it refers to another one and another one. And what is a stop sign? What is a traffic control device? Because that's all in their code. Well, Sean, I put my defense together. I did show up, and so did the deputy sheriff. And the neat thing is they had a whiteboard in there, and I just enjoyed myself. I used their whiteboard to show exactly the roads, my vehicle, the stop sign, the barricade, and then with their code, I'm defining everything, like not my own, arbitrary
Wasn't your
will.
Opinion?
No, their code. Sean, here's the juggler, the conclusion here, and that is after my testimony, which was I don't remember which was which. There was the deputy, of course, doing his thing, testifying, and then I did my testify. And so here's the conclusion. before the judge. This was a bench trial. And that is, here's what he said, Sean, after I made my testimony. Well, if we let everybody do that, we would have chaos.
That doesn't sound like a legal opinion. That sounds like some type of personal opinion.
Yes. Sean, that's the irrationality in our courts by these judges, is that even by their own code, I just, what else could I do? I know I was in the right. Inherently, by principles, I knew that I was not violating law, because true law is actually undergirded with principles. Okay, so the principle is self-government, Sean. So here, our program, Overcoming America's Enemies with Christian Self-Government, we're under attack with all these uniformed men. Not all the time. I mean, but it's when they're enforcing bureaucratic administrative agencies. Yes, 1,000 times yes. I know
we're seeing this in Australia. Yes. We're seeing uniformed people just abusing their own citizens, and it's not justice. It's a perversion of justice, and the same thing could happen in America if we don't do some things like Barry did. Like, if we don't do this regarding masks, regarding vaccinations, regarding our children, with their sex education and their schooling, if we don't stand up and say, hey, doesn't self-government play into any of this? Then they're going to steamroll us and be fascist against us. So this is a part of the balance of life, between authority and citizens, that you have to strike that balance. So you got that legal opinion that wasn't really a legal opinion; it was a personal opinion. and then let's go. We don't have much time, but let's go into the conclusion of that, and then the next experience with the DMV.
This episode will continue after a brief word from our sponsor who supports our ministry.
Don't you feel like giving back to the heroes who risk their lives every day to make the world a safer place? I mean, the military, the police, the firefighters, the first responders, they don't get enough respect or gratitude. To think that there are homeless veterans right now, I mean, they deserve a place to live. Well, my friend Lucas is a veteran who was tired of seeing other vets living on the street, and he started HeroSoapCompany.com. He makes natural soap that's healthier for you and your family. He uses essential oils, goat's milk, coconut oil. And if you have sensitive skin or dry skin, it's really perfect. But you can actually get a subscription and get it delivered to your door every month. But the best part is that it helps heroes like homeless vets get a place to live. Go over to HeroSoapCompany.com, use the coupon code QFAQ to get a discount, and check out all the varieties. And my favorite one's peppermint because of the aroma, the fresh tingly feeling. It's really an awesome natural product for your family. But while you're there, learn about the charities that the Hero Soap Company supports, so you can support the heroes, support your health, support your family with chemical-free soap, and support the channel through HeroSoapCompany.com.
Well, I'm operating on the best knowledge I have at that time. He did find me guilty because I made the case in that my defense for self-government. I governed myself. There was no injured party. There was no one around except the deputy sheriff. So see, that's the fraud there too. These administrative court hearings and cases, when there's no injured party, private citizen, but only the ones that are complaining are government employees. Boom, friends. Yep. The only ones complaining are government employees. I'm sorry, but it is not in their best interest to understand our law. It's not. No, I'm rejecting their law. It's man-made. I got William Blackstone here, 4 volumes of the English common law. It is glorious, Sean, to know true law. And what that judge gave me, he gave me lawlessness. It didn't matter. They want compliance. They want conformity. They want socialism and uniformity.
And they want you to pay the fine.
So yes, that was
right?
I did pay
Where
the fine.
does that money go? Right, it goes into their.
It goes to different trust funds.
The scam of the continuation of this injustice. So it gets to the point, Barry, where some people would say, "Oh, Barry, just comply, just go with the crowd. Don't ruffle any feathers. This is." But it gets to the point where you think to yourself, "If I pay this fine, aren't I perpetuating this evil?" You get to that point where your conscience starts to
Yes.
get the better of you, and you start thinking, well, am I participating in the evil by paying these fees and fines? So
Yes.
I guess you could have refused to pay the fine. What did you decide at that time, 2005?
Well, here's what I did. No, because I first of all, I could have appealed it, but it wasn't in me at that time to think on that level. I could have, but I'm living my life. I have 5 children in my business. I'm at that time, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot to you got to invest time to. But I'm invigorated. I'm empowered. The Lord has liberated me. I want to have. When you're in business, you got to have a working knowledge of the law, or you're going to get steamrolled. Okay, so and I still got steamrolled, but I know the rightfulness of my behavior, and so I had to pay like a $200 fine. But get this, I go to the clerk, to go pay this, and then she tells me I got to pay an administrative court fee, and she had this little matrix. Depending on what the judge fined you, then you got to pay an extra amount. And I said, you got a law that covers that? And she didn't. Exactly. She didn't. And she goes, well, if you just write the judge a letter or something, we'll just forget it for now. So I did. So I got over on that. I didn't pay.
There's
that.
another example that if you come from the right frame of mind,
yes.
They can't pull these scams on you. So you didn't necessarily get like 100% victory there.
Not that first one.
You were a busy guy, and you just kind of you were experimenting. So let's go to the next example.
Well, that was in Florida. Okay, now that incident in 2005, that was in Oregon before we went to Japan. But then I'm in Japan for 3 years, from 2013 to 16. Come back to Oregon for about a year until we get our bearings straight. Trying to get my wife. That was another escapade with the Department of Defense because I'm a poor man and they think my wife's going to go on welfare and all this. But that's another day. But we make it to Florida. Doors opened up for me to go to Florida. Somebody invited me down there to do some work with him. And that's why I have all this Florida stuff. I've got I'm turning around here. I mean, I have got behind me, I got documents. I'm a junior lawyer. That's what I become. Starting with our history, getting a godly Christian view of law, Sean, throwing off the pagan view. See, that's why we're under attack with the pagan view of law. That's why we're all in pain, these attacks on our families. But in Florida, yes, I got pulled over because I was pulling another man's trailer for a farm and the taillights weren't working. So I incurred that injury doing work for another man in North Florida, in Live Oak, Florida, actually at a farm. And his trailer lights were out. So I got pulled over there. And so when he asked the deputy, or actually it was a state trooper then, asked for my license, I gave him my passport. Okay. So I know these guys feel threatened if they don't know, they can't identify you. I've had these guys say, oh, you could be anybody. Yeah. Oh yeah. I could just be anybody. I'm certainly somebody, but I could be anybody.
They always assume that you're incompetent and you're criminal, instead of assuming that you're sovereign and that you're law abiding.
Yes. They assume the worst, Sean. So I had 2 cases actually. So I have on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist that's got, if people want to see, and in the moment, like back in 2017 in Florida, I've got a couple videos there, and I haven't completed the story there. You asking me to talk about this subject today makes me think I should do that because we have some victory. Actually, I have 4 cases. Okay. And the 4th one, I've got the victory, and we probably can't go there today. We'll leave it on a cliffhanger. Okay. I know how to write papers without, their professional accusers of their lawyers can't answer. And so we got a summons to appear, and we appeared in writing. And so, Sean, this is the Jesus method of fighting without fighting. Okay. When you get before these judges, I'm telling you, they're intimidating. They really are, because first, they don't like you representing yourself. I could have had what they call it, the public defender, right? And I met with the public defender. We had a conference. My wife is there and the children. And I actually recorded the thing underneath the table because you're not supposed to do that, but I did it. I'm not playing on their terms, okay? Record the conversation. And this guy ends up admitting that it's a racket. It's not about true law. Right. And so I'm asked, we had about a 45-minute to an hour conference to see, do I want to go with this guy? And Sean, it's smoke and mirrors. You can't put your hands in those public defenders. Okay. Right. They're there to perpetuate, kind of just broker a deal, right. Get you license.
Try to let you off light, but you're still considered the guilty party or whatever. Okay. So, but where are you at right now in life? I mean, are you able to travel?
Yeah. Oh, am I able? Well, he makes me able. Glory to his name. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So God, Sean, I'm in your home territory here of Pennsylvania, and I am preparing documents that is going to the DMV. And but my escapades and victory between Oregon and Florida, I'm perfecting my self-governance, and it's an art, Sean. It really is. It's an art and it's a science. This is what our founders
so let me get this straight, Barry. You are driving around Pennsylvania. Do you use a driver's license? Do you use a license plate? How does this work?
Okay.
Do you pay any fees to any government agencies?
Okay. This is, like I said, this is a work in progress. All right. So to answer you in the short, I don't own. I actually lost. It was stolen. My Oregon driver's license was expired. So I never got one in Florida. So I drove freely there for 4 years. I drove across the country from Oregon to Florida with an expired Oregon license. And then it got stolen at a Costco when I left a wallet there and all that. So it was never recovered. So I drove 4 years in Florida. So all those who are listening down there in Florida, 4 years, I drove freely. And yes, I got called in a couple of times, but that added to my experience. And to see the fraud of their manipulations, okay? And I'm not saying that the government is a fraud. I mean, that the state is a fraud. No, the state is a minister of God. But when they see, these officers out there, they swear an oath to the state and federal constitution, and then they enforce motor vehicle code. They don't take an oath to that. And I questioned the deputy in one of my cases, and the prosecutor hammered me, just objected. And then the judge, he sustained that. And I got hammered. Okay. But you learn by that. It's okay. Okay. So I drove 4 years there, and now I'm up here in Pennsylvania. So yes, I am traveling freely because the king, in his land that I'm on here in America, we can be free. And here in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, the Liberty Bell, for crying out loud, is down there with the scripture out of Leviticus. It says, proclaim liberty to all the inhabitants thereof. Okay. Like, liberty is the law in this country, and I'm going to live that way.
Some people think if they try to go against the state, then they're going to just end up in jail and rot there. And you are living proof that you can live your life, you can conduct your activities without government interference. If you're a law-abiding person or human being, I should say, then you should be fine. So that's very interesting. I'm going to end the show or summarize this main part of the show with my story. That I got a parking ticket in Pennsylvania, and I was just wondering why all of my names were in capital letters, because that's not how I spell my name. The way I spell my name is I capitalize the first name and the middle name and the last name. But according to my research, all capital letters signifies a corporate person, not a human being. And so I wrote a letter to the borough, and they wouldn't answer my question. And then I went to court, and I tried to ask the judge, but I also told the judge that I was recording the proceeding, and they said, no, you can't. And I said, well, I think it's good to be transparent so everyone knows what's going on in here. And what happened is the judge yelled at me, stood up, and left the room. So that's what happens when you try to do things on your own terms. They try to be in charge, and when you don't let them be in charge, they're so flustered, they don't know what to do. They just leave. They won't interact with you. So I never got an answer. I never got an answer of why my name is in all capital letters when they try to charge me fees. I still don't understand, because they won't answer. They won't conduct, righteous communication where just two people are trying to figure out the truth. They will not do that, apparently, in that borough. And so, that's my story. I actually did record it and put it on YouTube as well, where she's standing up and she's storming out of the room. But
Yes,
Yeah,
Sean.
that was my
Yeah.
my little experiment, and I'm interested in experimenting more as well. But I'm also finding there are benefits, of playing along with their game. I'm finding that I'm getting more benefits actually, by playing along than going against it for now
Mhm.
temporarily. But when it comes to them trying to trample all over my rights, like try to vaccinate me or my family or mask us, it's just not going to happen. So,
Yes, Sean.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
It's good for me to clarify, just because for the listening audience, that this is not reckless living. This is not lawlessness. Actually, this is true law. And let me just frame it like this: I have on record with a judge in Florida and the Department of Motor Vehicles that I will comply, but I will not waive my God delegated fundamental duties. A right is a duty to act. That's what a right is, a true right. A right is not a selfish thing, it's a duty. Rights come from God. It's in our Declaration of 1776, okay? And so it's a duty. I have a duty to govern myself on the Lord's land. And so I put it to those agencies that I will comply. I'll get your license, but I'm not going to deny my God-given fundamental rights and until they can. So they have to show me how to do that, and they can't. See, Sean, what this is the art of asking good questions, and it neutralizes them when you do learn to ask, not even a lot, a couple of good questions.
It puts the onus on them, and then they become the ones who are negligent and non-compliant and dishonorable when they refuse to engage with you. According to their own rules. So, Barry, to close us out, do you have any scripture quotes that have to do with the system, them falling by their own counsels or what have you, like something having to do with that they actually end up being crippled by their own laws?
Okay, yes. I'm not going to recall the exact reference, but there's more than one place in the book of Psalms. Again, that's our worship, built-in worship hymnal. God says, it might be Psalm 37, but it's in several Psalms where God tells his people, his God-fearing people, don't worry about the wicked when they flourish, when they prosper. Don't worry, don't fret, don't be anxious. Here's what he says: I'm going to mow them down like the grass. And there's I see some serious grass mowing going on, and even trees being cut down of the wicked, because his way is to govern ourselves in his Son. And if you get in trouble for that, and I have, and it's not just limited to the state, Sean, it's going on in the church, and I'm sure we can get into that. But there are these machinations. And I say that very intentionally, these machinations are going on in the church where there's oppression. That is not the work of Christ. And when you have church leaders who are wanting to control you and won't answer your meaningful questions, you see, the problems in America did not start at the national level. They start in a man's home and in the church. This is where we need to reclaim, and we are taking back our family government, Sean, and a right view of church as a arm of the government of Christ to advance his authority, his kingdom. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I know what the book of Psalms says at a minimum. And he will honor you. He's honoring me when I'm taking faith. This is faith, man. This is like trusting the Lord and not fearing those who, want to breathe down your neck and all that. No, they're being revealed.
When you do it for his name's sake, it's checkmate against the enemy.
Yes.
I don't remember the exact place in the Bible or what have you, but there are several references to the counsel of the wicked. They have their own government. They have their own system.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that they end up falling, from their own issues of their own, They
Their own
won't follow rules. They don't
cords.
follow rules. They're lawless, so they can't even follow their
That's
own
right.
laws. So they end up falling from
The cords of their own sin.
counsels. Yeah,
That's right. Josiah, I'm calling you Josiah, my son. No, Sean. Sean. No. This is how serious a matter sin, friends, sin, law. The epistle, 1 John says, sin is lawlessness. I've been dealt a death, not a death blow, but a heavy blow by people here in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. And before we end this program, I'll reference something about that with a video. But lawlessness, Sean, we're not aware that God is a holy God. He is the true lawgiver. His law is to love, be liberated, and walk in liberty. And so what we're about is talking about true law as the remedy for lawlessness. We men, we the people, and that was the men, and the men represent the women and children. Okay, that's his principle of representation. But we men have to come out and with the support of our wives and our children and say, no, we're not consenting to this. And then so this is what we're doing, Sean.
This is the liberty. A lot of people, there are people doing what you do, Barry, but they're not doing it under Christ. And so what they end up coming across as is they're just lawless and they just want to do whatever they want to do. And that's Satan's motto, do what thou wilt. And so what we're really saying is that freedom comes from submission to Christ's law, that law of love. So I have to go. We have to wrap up the episode now because I have to go pick up my son from preschool. But make sure you go to libertyisthelaw.us. Take advantage of all the resources that Barry has there. You can also join his nation and go to SeanMorganReport.com and join the email list there so you can get the latest updates on this war against the deep state and how the White Hats and the Patriots are gaining ground every day. So check out the links in the description below of the Christian companies that support our ministry. And so you can support them and you can get a discount as well. So thank you for watching. God bless all you Patriots. We'll see you next Sunday.
Thank you for being a part of our Christian self-government ministry by supporting our sponsor.
A way to support the channel and be able to get a really great experience of waking up every single day with the Great Awakening Gourmet Coffee. So this is the website, thegreatawakeningcoffee.com. You go here, you click on Get Started, and then it takes you to the next step. You choose whether you're going to buy the coffee for your home or your office. So we'll just click Home for now. And the website will load here. And by the way, this company is totally Patriots owned. So that's what I really like about this company. You can choose what kind of coffee you want, ground, whole, or the K-cup. So we'll just choose ground. It's the easiest. That's the way I buy it. And then you can pick the kind that you like. I prefer the Washington blend, South America blend. Click on that. You put in the size that you want, 1 pound or 2 pound. You can subscribe so that it sends the same amount of coffee at the same time every month. And then click subscribe and save. Then click on view cart. Make sure you put in the coupon code QFAQ to get a discount. And then proceed to checkout, and you know how to handle the rest with your credit card. It's that simple. You know what's going on right now with the corporate coffee is they're donating a bunch of millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter. So ditch the corporate coffee. Check out thegreatawakeningcoffee.com. Support the Patriots. Support this channel. Thank you so much for your support. God bless.
Hi, thank you for checking out this video. So I just recorded my first song of the new album, Familia. And this is a song half in Portuguese, half in English. It's called Esposa Carinhosa, which means affectionate wife. It's all a family values song, has humor. It has, a little rap in it. It's a popular song, and it's to inspire people to follow God's plan for family. It's all about family. That's what this whole album is going to be about. And so if you want to help me create this album, I'd be honored. So there are lots of ways you can support. The lowest level, you get basically access to these songs before they're actually finished, and the same with the music videos. And you also get a download of all the MP3s and also a download of all the music videos. And then the support levels just keep going up, and so do the benefits. I mean, if you want to help me actually be a producer, you get a personalized music video. I will sing the song for you or your loved one, and also, you know, do phone calls with you and get your feedback of how best to create this album and how best to share this music and this message with the world. So I would love your support. Please contact me, let me know what you think, and I'd love to work with you and collaborate with you to make this beautiful, God-centered, family-centered album a reality. God bless. Bye-bye.